So welcome to the blueberry farm. My parents have acres and acres of blueberries. The ones behind me are Farthing. They're Key Crisp variety on over closer to the house. They have Optimus and Key Crisp as well. You're hearing all these variety names, and if you're like me, before my parents started growing blueberries, I didn't know there was such a big difference. I thought blueberries were blueberries, but just like apples, we love Pink Lady, for example. They're Gala apples. Blueberries also have different varieties, and this is one of them. They have this beautiful red color here in the winter. The leaves are going to drop soon. The buds are getting ready, and by April, this is going to be full of blueberries. This isn't my mother's favorite. She's actually filming behind the camera. My mother's favorite are a few rows down, and it's the Key Crisp. But that's what these are. They also have overhead frost protection, if you'll see some of the white poles that are sticking out of the ground, as well as the drip tape under that. So that's how they actually keep them when the temperatures plummet and that hard frost sets in. They can turn on those irrigation, that irrigation system, they can actually protect the plant and protect the berries. But while blueberries are great, someone like my dad or my mom should be talking about those. What I wanted to do for this tour is show you some of the other things that they have. Longleaf pine trees are one of them. Pine trees love the same type of soil, that sandy soil that blueberries love. And longleaf pine is a variety that's actually native to here in southeast Georgia. Lars loves them because of these huge pine cones.
Look at these.
Yeah, those
Back in Denmark, it's like a teeny tiny pine cone, but here they are. Just look at that.
And if we had to buy that at the Christmas supply store, do you know how expensive this would be? So, but look, that's the thing about these longleaf pine. They have these long pine needles. Look at that. These long pine needles that make great pine straw to put around the houses. So let's show that. Maybe we come this way. And this pine forest is planted in around 2014. Isn't that right, Mom? Yeah, it's around 2014. You can see how tall they get. And I think around 20, 25 years before you cut them down, and then you can use that as lumber. But in here, there's some people that help out on the farm that are actually raking and collecting this straw.
Hang on, we need to show here how they grow. Look at this. So you don't think I just bought this from a store. They are actually this huge. And I remember some years back, so maybe 7 years, the trees here were really like just small trees, and now they've just grown.
And they sure do.
Really big.
But as they lose their needles, back to the pine straw.
Yeah, sorry.
There's a team that helps out and that works on the farm, and they actually rake it and they collect it. So this is actually their system, and I thought we could show you that real quick. They had it covered, but we took it off. This is what they've made to bale the pine straw. This is absolutely insane. Eventually, they're going to bale it into this.
Look at this little cute one.
And then they sell this. So a lot of people here in the South, they'll put this around their flower beds. They use it as mulch. Some people put this in place of any sort of shrubbery in front of their house. It looks really pretty. To me, it's very traditional Southern gardening style. But the way they get this is with this machine. So they take the straw that they've sort of raked up, actually with a pitchfork. They collect it, then they stick it in here. This thing beats it down into these bales, then they tie it up. Crazy. It must take forever. You'll see some piles around here that they're also then going to burn. So they try to keep the ground really clean. That way when they come in next year, or twice a year, I think, the pine needles are falling. Then it just makes it easier. These bales sell for around $4 each if they sell them directly to a customer. So,
and they would have it on like a thick layer, right, in the garden.
Yeah, you'd put a pretty thick layer to sort of keep those weeds down and keep your plants protected, but it's a lot of work. So the guys and gals doing this are really pretty impressive. If you can come a little bit closer, Mom, we'll show how it looks inside there. And they made this machine. Here comes that camera. So the pine straw goes in here. And then this presses it down. And they would pack it in. Before at the very end, they use these strings that are connected there and down here at the bottom. So this door would open, the bale would be packed, and they would tie it up before they load it in a semi-truck and sell it to people. It's crazy, a lot of work, but it makes the houses really pretty.
Okay, so if you follow me back here, I'm gonna take you to the orange, big field with orange. There's around 100. They planted around 6-7 years old. Sorry, 6-7 years ago.
You're good at walking backwards.
Yeah, right, without falling. And so they really do well, thrive here in the heat. Last year they got some kind of frost, so they didn't really produce a lot of oranges, and it's really a sweet kind of orange that kids really love. It's really juicy and
yeah, it's a Satsuma orange, so it's part of the mandarin family, which means they're really easy to peel. They come off in that sort of like a mandarin orange or like a clementine, actually kind of that piece by piece. Malatsi adores them. They were here right before Christmas. There were quite a few, but now they're all gone.
yeah.
But these are really nice. My parents planted these because, if I remember the story correctly, in most citrus, if you know anything about Georgia, you think of what? You think of peanuts, you think of peaches. If you're from down where I'm from, you think of blueberries, you think of pine trees. You don't really think about citrus. That's more of a Florida concept, Florida sunshine, Florida orange juice, that sort of thing. But the industry is starting to move a bit. We're here in South Georgia. We're around 2 hours from Jacksonville. What would you say, an hour and a half from the Florida line? So we're pretty close to Florida, and the weather's quite similar up here in South Georgia. So this is a new variety that can really thrive up here.
They love the blue sky and the sunshine,
I think
like the people.
Lars is like an orange. He loves the blue sky.
Ta-da!
So I do think that Malatsi and my nieces and nephews have eaten all of the oranges. I was looking for them, but I can't find any. I do want to show back, this part of the property is a pond that my dad built many years ago, and he's still using it as part of the irrigation for this field. So not only is it just a beautiful place to come and enjoy, it does serve a purpose. And here is that purpose, this massive irrigation system. With this huge pipe that's going to pull that water up from the pond, shoot it through, and this whole field has that overhead protection that we were talking about. There's actually a video where my dad explains that concept, so I'll be sure to link that in the description so you can hear about the latent power of evaporation or something. He's way smarter than I am, so he can explain that to you. But I think it's really interesting the way, Lars and I, we have our garden with our little rain collection and our little bitty bit of water that we need. And when you farm on such a massive scale, just those whole requirements are way different. And then down here, if we'll keep walking a little bit, I just want to show you the bees that they use to help pollinate this field. Shall we do that? Let's take them up there.
So we just quickly want to show you the bees that they use here at the blueberry farm. And the bees, they use those, of course, to pollinate the blueberries. And they also have a really big section of wildflowers. So they really have a big purpose here on the farm, the bees. So we won't go too close. You don't want to make them angry, but yeah, they really a must-have here on the farm.
Yeah, and it's cold today, so the bees are kind of quiet. But the interesting about this, so there's an apiary that rents this space on the farm. And then what they do, so they've asked my dad and my mom if they could have their beehives here. Yes, of course. And then they collect this honey, and my mom actually sells it in her store, theblueberrybarn.com. So
we'll make sure to make a link for that.
Exactly. So while you can't guarantee that it's only honey made from the blueberry blossoms, it is made from the blueberry field. And like Lars was saying, in the middle of this big field, they planted a row of wildflowers. So there's bee balm, there's some monarda, there's blanket flower, there's all sorts of wildflowers that also help bring in these
Yeah.
bees and then give them something to snack on before they hide over there on this cold day. I put my jacket on, it's cold. Ooh. But it's a beautiful field, wonderful farm. Growing up here, it was an incredible joy. And yeah, and it's nice that we get to share it with you guys today. So here's this field, and in the background is the Chestine. That was my great-grandfather's homestead. So it's a really, really pretty place. And here you can get a better view of that irrigation, this overhead irrigation. So when that pump comes on, when it's pumping that water up, comes through here, the pressure brings this up, and then this head starts to turn. And this is a wobbler. So as the water shoots out, it wobbles this, and the water sprays everywhere. And then once you turn off the water, it drops back down. That way, when you're picking the blueberries or when you're trimming them, you're not worried about knocking off your overhead. Isn't that smart?
It's a great system.
It's a great system, I tell you.
But look at the color here too, though. Wow. So all these leaves are gonna fall off, and then the new buds are actually already there. And look, they're green on the back here. But look at that color. Wow.
And again, this is that farthing variety. So the next time you're buying some blueberries in the supermarket or buying a blueberry muffin mix, think about the variety. It's not just a blueberry, it's a something. And these happen to be really sweet. Some of the sweetest ones are the Key Crisp over on that side. But speaking of that side, I think the last thing I want to show you is there's some research from the University of Georgia that's being done. That's also part of that wildflower section, is also part of a research project. But there's another one on this side of the farm that we want to show you really quick before we let you go. Let me show you that.
So over here, like we showed or talked about down there with the bees, this is a big stretch of the wildflowers here, and we have the bee balm, the monarda here, and it's finished flowering, but it is a perennial, so it will come back. So as you can see, it's all with it up here at the top, and actually you could also, if you want to have more fields, there's a bunch of seeds sitting in here.
But down you and the seeds,
right, everywhere, even in the USA. But then down here, you can really see here the new growth of the bee balm, of the monarda, and it has a really wonderful scent to it, and the bees really do love it, together with the blanket flower and a bunch of other wildflowers here. So they will be trimmed back, and then it will flower again for the next season.
So here at this part of the field, and you'll see several different things in front of me. You'll see these red containers and these milk cartons, and these are in fact milk cartons. And because I've already warned you that I don't know much about what's going on, I invited someone who does know, my dad. Can you please tell us, why in the world have you put milk cartons? Are you growing milk?
Yeah, we'll come out after a while and get a glass of milk out of there. These milk cartons are put around it to protect the plant, because we have to put a herbicide down to keep the weeds from
Doing what weeds do.
and choking out the plant. So it allows us to put a herbicide down, and this serves as a barrier so it doesn't hurt the plant. Another thing it does, it keeps these limbs from starting off at the bottom and growing outward. If you don't put this around it, they'll grow laterally. Then you have to come in with shears and cut them off. So it's cheaper, costs less money to put this down along with these two little bamboo stakes, and it makes the plant grow upright more.
Because also when you come in with the harvester, if you had all these lateral shoots, you just smush the berries.
That's right. The way the harvester works, it has scales that goes around the plant, and those scales have to close, or your berries will fall through on the ground. So the narrower you can keep the crown of the plant, which is the part near the ground, the narrower you can keep it, the less harvest loss you'll have.
And another good thing about these, if you look over here at this one, Lars, you can see that they do fall apart. So once the plant has sort of established its height, it's not going to get any more of those lateral shoots, right?
That's right.
This thing starts to fall apart, because
That's
now
right.
the plant's focused on headed straight up.
That's right.
So then this just
Yeah.
breaks on down?
That will break on down. Sometimes if they get pretty ragged like that, we'll come in and just take them up and get them out of the way so it doesn't look so bad out in the field. But if you leave them, it's paper, so it goes back into the soil.
Yeah. So there's this option, and then another option are these futuristic looking red containers that you're going to have to tell me about, because I never had milk out of this.
No, this is an experiment that the University of Georgia, our horticulturist from University of Georgia, has put out here.
Right.
And her thought is, what she's trying to do is to see if with this type container around the plant and the way that this looks like a big funnel is, she's measuring the light refraction
Yeah.
that will come to the plant, thinking that perhaps the plant getting more light, it will help the growth of it.
Yeah.
So it's just an experimental thing. These things, I believe, they have experimented with them quite a bit on grapes in some areas, and grape and blueberry, of course, quite a bit differently in plant structure and all that. But it will let us know if giving it more light works, and possibly something on a smaller scale could come from that.
Because if you had to put if this was the winner and you had to put these in,
No, it would be
not possible.
Totally cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
These came from Israel. They're made in Israel. And I don't know really what the cost would be, but just looking at them, I know it would be cost prohibitive. Yeah.
And before you at home think, wow, it's really working, Mom and I thought that one day. We thought, well, it's really working. Look how much taller they are. It's because these haven't been touched, right?
That's right.
You don't do anything to these that are under
Right.
research, whereas these other ones have been trimmed at the top. So
She also has on some of them she has some thermometers that's measuring the temperature.
yeah.
And they come out. During the growing season, they're here like once a month. This winter, they're not here. I haven't seen them in a while, but they'll start back pretty soon. They come out checking these things and gathering the data,
Yeah.
and they'll compile all that and see where we're at.
So if you know anything about that, let us know if you're any Israelis out there who have ever seen these. I would love to see them in a field really working at that scale. But hey, but it's great y'all let them do that here.
Well, they have. That's the only way we learn anything is by our researchers trying something, and a lot of times it's some off the wall that won't work, but you gain some knowledge with it, and that leads to another one over here, and that's how
Exactly.
we have been able to stay in the game with the blueberries. When we first planted blueberries back about 40 years ago, we had no insects, we had no disease, we had nothing that was a pest to them, because there wasn't many. As our acreage has increased, then it brings a new disease and it brings a new pest. So we have to continuously research.
Exactly.
And our varieties have changed too.
Yeah, you were telling me that the other day. Remember how at the beginning we talked about the different varieties that we have? We talked about the farthing and the key crisp. It's not the same varieties that even I grew up with.
No, our varieties, when you grew up, peak harvest was about July 4th.
It was July, yeah.
By
We always
July-
missed the fireworks, yeah.
By July 4th now, we are finished.
Yeah.
Our peak comes in, maybe the last week in May.
Yeah. So they're making them earlier, and that's just commercial reasons, you reckon, or?
That's right, commercial reasons, and the heat.
Yeah.
Here in South Georgia, we have
See the sun, yeah.
we have a lot of humidity and we have a lot of heat. And so if we can get a variety that will produce earlier, we can get it to market when the weather is cooler and the humidity is lower.
Exactly. It makes your workers happier,
Right.
which is always a plus too.
Yeah.
But yeah, So that's what these are. So if you ever drive by a blueberry field and you see milk cartons and huge red containers, now you know what they're for. So thank you all for joining us here on this blueberry tour of the oranges, the pine trees, the blueberries, and all the stuff that's going on. Hope you have a wonderful new year from all of us here in Alma, Georgia, to you.